Watch.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey guys, it's Jason from InfluenceFilms.com. I'm back with another Michael Jackson book review. This review is from Michael Jackson, American Master by C. Mecca, depending on how you pronounce that. Let's go ahead and look at the side of the book and the back of the book, and then we'll get inside it. Here's the side of the book, Michael Jackson, American Master. Here's the back of it. It says, "What one wishes is to be touched by truth. This is art in its highest form." So, presentation-wise, this book is a really nice-looking book. It has a bookmark tab thing down here at the bottom. As you can tell, my copy's pretty beat up. I bought it used on eBay. This book is pretty hard to find. It goes for close to $1,000 on eBay. And as for what's inside, we'll check it out. So here's the opening pages. They're kind of gold. Again, my copy's pretty used. Here's the jacket of the inside. I'm just kind of trying to show you guys the front. It's got this really nice gold gloss. Hoping that's coming through. And there's some blank pages here. Okay, so here's the first real page. It says Michael Jackson, American Master. Here's another title page. The book is dedicated to Michael Jackson and all the masters yet to be. The world applauds the accomplishments. The author applauds the man. There's the Statue of Liberty there. Here's the table of contents. Okay. So, as you can see through the layout of the book, this is kind of an unusual biography. Here is the shot that's worth the price of admission. This is the shot that was used, Michael Jackson's funeral, and it was also the Liberian Girl cover. And it's on the cover of the book too, but the photo here, I'm just going to go back to it, is just really awesome. Here's the first page of it. It says The Essence. He is a composite of the image that nature desires for every individual to attain. Bob Jones. Bob Jones did write the foreword for the book, and basically in that, what Bob Jones explains in this foreword here, and I'm just going to leave it open as we kind of talk about it, is that how this book came to be is a woman came to his office and wanted to write a book about Michael Jackson. She had studied previous masters, and she felt like Michael Jackson was deserving of that title. And she asked Bob Jones to do two things for her. She wanted him to review the completed manuscript of this book, and she also wanted him to donate any artistic material needed and write the foreword as well. So that is what she wanted. That's what he talks about in his foreword, and he describes her as a mysterious woman, which is really interesting. So here we have the qualifications of a master. I'm going to go through these because this is actually going to inform what is in the chapters to come, which we'll talk about. So it says qualifications of a master. A master is an individual who possesses the following attributes. 1. Has control over his own life and affects the lives of others. 2. Develops his talent to the best of his ability. 3. Is concerned with the expansion of ideas and is not limited by arbitrary boundaries. 4. Has a message or proposal in his life to share for the betterment of mankind. 5. Teaches and lives by example, which is in harmony with his beliefs. 6. Is a philanthropist and humanitarian by putting back into the environment in ratio equal to and that which he uses. Next one is realizes that he is a result of nature. Abides by and has a clear understanding of the laws of the universe. Enhances the world by his very presence. Believes and uses the invisible power of intuition, inspiration, and thought, is a manifester for our day and age, has a thought process based on truth, and therefore is free of making false decisions and judgments. These are really keys to the puzzle, which is this book. And I describe it that way because this book is very unique. I don't think you'll ever find another Michael Jackson biography like this book. To start off, it's not really a biography. It's really more about explaining Michael Jackson in a way like the books that are popular now are like The Secret, any kind of New Age movement book that talks about the law of attraction and manifestation. This is the book that ties Michael Jackson to that, and this book was actually before The Secret's time by several years. And in Frank Cassio's book, he talks about how Michael Jackson really incorporated manifestation and using your mind to create things in his book. So, I mean, I don't know how much Michael Jackson was involved with this book. If you'll notice down here, it does say photos are courtesy of MJJ Productions, but I'm thinking that's probably because of Bob Jones's involvement. Obviously, that was before Bob wrote his tell-all book about Michael Jackson, which we're not going to talk about here. So let's go ahead and just lay out these chapters. So here we have setting the stage in the introduction by the author. We're really just kind of talking about what makes up a master. And there's all these qualifications, but really, you guys have the list that we talked about earlier. Here is a message to the master. This is from the author. You can tell definitely when you start getting into this book that the author is a big fan of Michael's, which is great. Just trying to show you guys the pages. It's really laid out. It almost kind of reminds me of like a Disney-esque kind of feel to it, with all these illustrations that are kind of timeless looking. And there's vocabulary used that really mimic phrases and words that Michael would use. It's almost like you can tell this person really has a familiarity with Michael Jackson's personal beliefs and the things he presented to his fans through various mediums. This is a cool shot from Remember the Time. Okay, so this says King of Pop. This talks about who he is, his stage persona. Talks about why he's worthy of the title King of Pop, but also why he's worthy of the title of a master. Okay, so here we get into it. The manifestation of Michael Jackson. Here we go. Here's an awesome shot from Billie Jean from the Dangerous Tour. Okay, so here we are. Chapter 1. Michael Jackson, a master speaks, and it says the greatest education is watching the masters at work. Great quote to kick off chapter 1. So really this just talks about the manifestation of your thoughts have power. And it cites, the Oprah interview. Advises those using likewise thoughts of self to really keep in mind Michael Jackson's personal beliefs. Here's a cool shot of Michael Jackson and Elizabeth Taylor and Berry Gordy. And really just that Michael Jackson has a curious demeanor, and that is something that we should all try and incorporate into our lives. And that is a quality of a master. It's pretty much kind of the overview of the highlights of chapter 1. There's a lot of stuff that references interviews and the book Moonwalk as well, which we'll get into a bit later. But that is just kind of a brief overview. And here is reproduction of Michael's poem, The Dance. Okay, there it is, with a cool graphic. Here's some lyrics from Black or White. Okay. Okay, so now, moving on. Here's a great shot. I'm a fan of this photo. I'm trying to zoom out so you guys can see it. Chapter 2 is called The Master Reaches for Perfection. It says a perfectionist has to take his time. Michael Jackson. Okay, so in this, it really is chapter 2 talking about perfection. It talks about Michael Jackson's personal beliefs. It has quotes of his about what a perfectionist he is. And really, what's cool is, I'm going to cite some passages from this book in a minute, but I just want to show you guys this photo. It's pretty cool looking. Okay. What's cool about this is it talks about who Michael's mentors are. At the time of this book's printing, Michael was still alive. And so it talks about one that I think fans kind of miss, but really clearly it was a mentor for Michael. It was his father. And it cites the quote where he says, Michael said, "Even a look would scare you." But then it talks about how his father was a perfectionist when it came to his son's talent. And next it cites Berry Gordy as a mentor. Berry, again, insisted on perfection and attention to detail. And it has a quote from Michael which says, Berry insisted on perfection and attention to detail. This was his genius. Then and later I observed every moment of the sessions where Berry was present and never forgot what I learned. To this day I use the same principles. Berry was my teacher and a great one. And then it talks about how Walt Disney was another great influence on Michael's life. It says, Walt Disney is a hero of mine, and I'm very interested in Disney's history and philosophy. I wanted to do something that Mr. Disney himself would have approved. I have read a number of books about Walt Disney and have approved. I have his creative empire, and it was very important to have things as he would have. This is a quote from Moonwalk, and really this book does rely pretty heavily on quotes from that book. But it's still neat to have in here, and I definitely agree that Walt Disney was a big mentor in Michael's life. Talks about his physical presence, how Michael Jackson impacts people. Pretty good stuff. There's a really cool quote from Beat It. With regard to the Beat It video, I'm going to try and find for you guys next. If I'm just skipping over pages, it's just because it's just text. Here's a great shot of Michael and Eddie Murphy. Okay. So here's a quote from Beat It that I wanted to share with you guys. It says, in working with gang members for Beat It, Michael Jackson came to understand their position and the underlying reasons for some of their behavior. It says, quote, I came to realize that the whole thing about being bad and tough is that it's done for recognition. All along, these guys wanted to be seen and respected. They're rebels, but rebels who want attention and respect. Like all of us, they just want to be seen. They were wonderful to me, polite, quiet, supportive. After the dance numbers, they would compliment my work. It was nothing like acting. They were being themselves. The feeling you got was their spirit. So really, I mean, this chapter specifically really examines how Michael Jackson is a perfectionist. And along the way, one of this book's kind of flaws, which I'll talk about more as we go, is just the chapters are kind of unfocused. There's a real clear purpose at the beginning of each chapter, but it does seem like there's a lot of repetition, which is okay. I'm not trying to knock the book. I'm just letting you know that if you're wanting this book to be clearly organized, that's one of its weak points. And you'll have to kind of go through the book as more of a reference, which the author does let you know this book isn't a biography. It's intended as a reference for people to study Michael Jackson. There was a cool shot. So this is chapter 3. Michael develops his talent. There's a quote. It says, in the end, the most important thing is to be true to yourself and those you love and to work really hard. So obviously now we are talking about Michael developing his talent. With that, we're going to really get into here how to render services and share your talent. How to choose associates carefully and wisely. How to take disappointment and turn it into something positive. It's a great shot. And we're going to just go back a quick page because I wanted to share with you guys something that I really enjoyed. This is drawing on the quote from earlier. It says, in the end, the most important thing is to be true to yourself and those you love and work really hard. I mean, Work like there's no tomorrow. Train, strive, really train and cultivate your talent to the highest degree. Be the best at what you do. Get to know more about your field than anyone alive. Use the tools of your trade, if it's books or a floor to dance on, a body of water to swim in, whatever it is, it's yours. That's what I've always tried to remember. Again, a lot of these quotes come from Moonwalk, so if you haven't read that book, I would definitely advise you to if you're a Michael Jackson fan and you're enjoying these quotes. But I think the author does a really great job of using them. The photos that were provided by MJJ Productions are awesome. So now we're to chapter 4, Healing a Wounded World, And it says, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. It attributes that quote to Michael Jackson, but really that's from Man in the Mirror, but we're going to let that one go just because this book is still really great. Okay. So here's this right here. And in chapter 4, here's a great shot from the Dangerous Era, I believe. What we're really going to get into in chapter 4 is kind of the welfare of children being the cause that Michael Jackson took up as his way to heal this world. Here's a cool shot. Okay. And really, this chapter, again, it just kind of bounces around. It starts out really focused, but by the middle of it, you kind of lose your main idea of that. But that's okay. The continuity and consistency, this book at times is unorganized, but it's still really great. Now we're talking about history, how the trailer impacted people, and really, this book is intended for a fan. So if you're not a fan of Michael Jackson's and you stumble upon this book, I can't imagine you keeping it or getting anything really out of it, as far as its mentioning of MJ, just because this book is really putting Michael up on a pedestal and making him be the person that you look to as a great example, which now if you're a fan, that's great. But if you're not, it might not be for you. Okay. And I'm going to go back a page just because there's some really cool stuff. Even though this book isn't a biography, there's some real cool tidbits that I like pulling out. So here we have something that says, this book talks about how, in this part of it, how some critics thought that the history short film was modeled after Triumph of the Will, and other critics believed that some of his lyrics in the song They Don't Care About Us was anti-Semitic. What did Michael really mean? And then I'm just going to cite the book here. It says, again, it is best to apply his advice to not judge a person unless you speak to him one-on-one. On Primetime, he stated that he was outraged that he was so misunderstood. He explained that the particular song they were referring to was meant to bring people's attention to the social and political problems. Quote, I am not the one who is attacking. It is about the injustices to young people and how the system can wrongfully accuse them. Insofar as the history trailer is concerned, Michael said it is nothing to do with politics, communism, or fascism. You don't see any tanks and you don't see any cannons. It's about love, people coming together. It's art. Perhaps Michael's manager knows his client well. When he was asked about the lyrics to They Don't Care About Us, Mr. Sandy Gallen said that they should be kept in context. When I heard those lyrics, I thought they were brilliant. He is saying, stop labeling people, stop degrading people, stop calling them names. From there, it then goes on. Remember that a master always uses what he knows to find the solutions to the unknown. And so this is kind of the pattern of the book. The writer will take a quote from Michael or from someone close to him, and from there, she'll apply the principles in her book. So, pretty cool stuff. And we're going to go back one more time to page 74 real quick, just because the author talks about the trap that Michael referred to in the Primetime Live interview, which I think is neat here. It says, "The trap is relying on a person's own judgment without searching and researching for truth. A trap is a form of restraint. A person who has not searched for himself can easily find himself in the mental thought process of others who have not adequately done their homework. The way out of a trap is to search the lessons and knowledge of people who have encountered similar situations and apply wisdoms throughout intuition." Okay. Here we go, just more. Here's a great shot of Michael and Slash. Okay. Here's Earth Song. Okay, pretty cool. The book also talks a lot about the author's own personal experiences, which are fine. So now, reading into chapter 5, the master manifests his gift to the planet. It is true that you only get out of something what you put into it. Michael Jackson. So this chapter, here's a cool shot. You guys didn't catch that earlier. Beautiful photos in this book. Not as high quality as the previous book I reviewed, Michael Jackson Treasures, but the photos are still really great in this book. Here's a great shot from Remember the Time. This was a performance of it. Here's another great shot of Michael smiling. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the musical manifestations of Michael Jackson, and that's what this chapter really invites you to look at. Here's the author talking about why, again, Michael Jackson is an American master. And then here's his discography. Okay. So we're just kind of flipping through. Again, if we're just skimming through, it's just because it's really just laying out his albums. And now we're talking about awards. This book does go till history. After that, it's, at the time, that was its most. And just, you can get these same quality of awards by flipping through the history album, but it's just still cool to see them laid out this in this nice of a way here. Good stuff. Okay. More awards. Okay, here's more awards. All right. So, clearly, just beautifully laid out. Alright, so the master confronts the issues of the world. Here's a great shot here. Okay. Here's a great shot here. So really, this book goes back to a lot of the same points it talks about earlier. It kind of just repeats itself in different ways, so if you miss something, you'll definitely catch on to it. It talks about manifestation, talks about how Michael Jackson uses that to cultivate certain things in his own life. And it's just really fascinating stuff. And there's really some stuff, some room here for about personal experiences. The author really mentions some. And, you know, it's really unusual because normally in a biography of Michael Jackson or a book about him, there's not a lot of room for personal experience of an author, let alone personal experience that doesn't really relate to Michael Jackson, at least on the surface. But this author takes the next few chapters. Here's chapter 7, the master identifies the real issue. Hear the truth before you label or condemn me. And really just talks about her own experiences. And it was kind of unusual. It kind of took me back as I was reading it. I've read this book twice now. And when I read it several years ago, this part, I'll be honest, I skipped over. I was like, well, this is kind of silly. But as I read it, as I read it again now for this review, I can see how it comes together. I don't know if I feel still like it's fitting with the purpose of the book, but I think there's a place for it. And certainly, if Michael himself and Bob Jones approve this book at the time of its release, I'm not going to sit here and knock it. Here's a great shot of Michael from Smooth Criminal on the Dangerous Tour. Okay. So chapter 8, the master applies wisdom to solving issues. Again, we're really kind of stretching the bounds of what a lot of people expect this book to cover, but that's okay. So trying to show you guys this book here. Here's a great shot. Cool shot. Okay, so that is what we're really getting for this part of the book. It's like half of the book dives into what is a master, and then we get personal experience of how to bring that into your real life and how to apply it, which is fine. I don't think this book ever set out to be Michael Jackson was born in August of this year to blah blah blah. I don't think that's this book's intention, which is fine. My biggest problems again with the book are just its organization, and at times I feel like a bit of it's a stretching too as far as content. But if you're wanting a book to show you how to be like Michael Jackson in terms of personal strength, in terms of his curious demeanor, in terms of having quiet power, this would definitely be the book to get. Again, it does come with a hefty price tag. Okay, here's chapter 9, The Master's Solutions to World Problems. There's a quote, "Revenge is alien to me." I honestly don't understand what this chapter was about. I felt like this was the most poorly organized chapter, but again, I think with this author's writing style, there's really not a cohesive theme throughout the chapters. I think there's one intended, but I think it gets lost. Here's a beautiful shot. Okay. So here's chapter 10, talking about the making of a master. I don't know anything for sure. I'm still learning. Again, this is talking about Michael's curious demeanor. Okay. I want to go back, actually, to page 193 real quick. Just because on this page, there is something that I think this is one of the author's biggest repeated themes. It says, Michael Jackson is one of the greatest manifestors of our time. He sees the scope of life in its entirety. He applies all the components of the intricate parts and combines them in ways to make the physical world work in harmony with his talent, service, and belief system. So that is really kind of the theme of this book, is just that Michael Jackson can manifest things, and he's done it several times in his lifetime. Here's what he has to show for it. You can do that too. Study Michael Jackson, study his ways if you're looking to further your ability as a manifester. Here's a cool shot. The next part of this chapter has a quiz or questionnaire to ask yourself questions about, are you doing everything you can to be a master, if you want to be one. Cool shot from Billie Jean. Okay. So, in chapter 11, this is the epilogue of the book. It really just sums up everything that we've talked about. And it does a really good job of offering closure to these ideas. And it acknowledges that this is not the normal Michael Jackson book. And then chapter 12 kind of does the same thing. It's called A Note from the Author. And this book really, for all the disorganization, this book does a really good job of humanizing Michael Jackson, which is great. Shot, remember the time, performance. And, I mean, really, I think if we're going to discuss this book anymore, the one thing that we have to remember is something the author points out. It says, in studying a person of the stature of Michael Jackson, it is important to be aware that although he has developed his talent to the highest degree, he is still a human being. He has the same emotions, trials, and criticisms that all of us share, and many of them are the same faced by previous masters. They too could have been thought of as being weird, elusive, or bizarre, because their thought processes and manifestations were on a higher plane than the average population. Let us not make the same mistake. Let's keep the talent and work of Michael Jackson in the proper perspective and learn all we can from this astute and generous person. Then we have taken our own thought process to the next level of expansion. Again, just a really elegant, humanizing look at Michael Jackson and why he is a good person to look up to. So we're about done, guys. Here's a cool shot. Okay. These are guidelines. I'm not going to spend time reading them off to you guys, but so you get an idea, feel for it. I wonder if there's a PDF of this book on the internet somewhere. Okay, so that about does it, guys. Here's a great shot to wrap up the book. This is cool. A portion of the proceeds of the sales of Michael Jackson's American Massacre will be donated to the charity of the Master's Choice. Pretty awesome. Okay, so really, that about wraps up this book. Here's the acknowledgments from the author. Not a surprise, Michael Jackson's first person she acknowledges. And here's the footnotes, which, as you can see, moonwalk, 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 Life magazine. So really, and I'm not criticizing, I'm just letting you know that if you want to get to the heart and soul of this book and you don't have the $800, you might just want to pick up a book about the law of attraction, The Secret, and a copy of Moonwalk and call it good. Even with this book's problems, I think it's still a really elegant book. I think it does a really good job, once again, of humanizing Michael Jackson. And I think it's a great book to have, especially for collectors. The photos are beautiful. This shot here is just incredible. And the photo of it in the actual book is even more breathtaking than the quality of it. So that's about it, guys. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. See ya.
Make that change. Make that change. Okay, everybody, that's a wrap.